back to Simply Greg's EV. Today we're going to do something a bit different. We're in the office. And if you've been following EV news within the last 24 hours to 36 hours, then you already know that Tesla has decided to lay off pretty much their entire supercharging and charging staff. Huge implications in the EV industry and a giant shakeup. So we're going to try to get into it and give you some of my thoughts. So yeah, this came as a shocker to the EV community, to the EV landscape in general. I woke up in the morning and I actually read the release in the news that they pretty much laid off their entire staff of 500 people at Tesla Supercharging and their charging division. Yeah, that came as a giant shocker because Tesla, to us anyways, has always been the gold standard, the poster child that EV charging can work reliably and it can be deployed rather quickly. So yeah, it came as a complete shock. And I mean, Tesla's been in the news a lot lately regarding shakeups and how they're no longer a car manufacturer and there's transitioning over to software and AI and all of that. Yeah, so I mean, if I were a car manufacturer right now switching to NACS, I would be really taken off guard by this announcement and start figuring out which direction do we go, especially in the terms of if you're transitioning to NACS, you have Tesla people probably embedded at that manufacturer, and now, well, they're gone or they're still there. They don't know who to call back in California, and that just seems to be the general consensus based on what I've been reading online and on Twitter. Again, I don't work in this industry. I just follow this industry very closely and I try to promote EVs as much as I can. But the big advantage with Tesla was, well, they had their own charging network. And that's why a lot of people bought those cars, is that you could drive it from, let's say, here in Montreal down to Florida or to California, and you have no issues charging it anywhere. You would just stop and charge. And it was opening up. It just recently opened up to Ford. It opened up to Rivian as well. Next one in line was probably going to be BMW and so on and so forth. Yeah, they had this huge advantage, years ahead of the entire industry in terms of deploying their charging sites. I mean, they have prefabricated sites where just basically it shows up on the back of a trailer and you just unload it and install it and wait for the grid connection. Yeah, total shock, total shock. Everyone I know who has a Tesla bought it because of the charging network, and it seems very strange to announce this now. Like, yeah, sales are down for cars. Car industry is not doing great. We all know the interest rates are high, but to basically pull the rug out of your entire charging department and have them go elsewhere now to competitors, I don't know. It's just a bit strange move. It could possibly be a big brain move, and we could be here at the end of a decade saying, oh yeah, I was never against it. It was always an amazing idea, but I don't think we're going to admit that maybe that we were wrong, we're right. Yeah, possibly another reason I was thinking about this. Like I said, I wanted to think about this before I would make this video, and I was really on the fence with making this video. There's a lot of other players now out there on the market in terms of charging that are entering the EV space. And I wouldn't want to say that the Tesla equipment is getting old. The Tesla equipment still works flawlessly. They manufacture everything in-house. Everything is designed in-house, is built in-house. They really have it down to an art and a science now of their charger deployments. And it could possibly that maybe they were getting cold feet with new players on the market. You have European players, you have Chinese charging manufacturers now that are starting to import their stuff. Autel is one of them. You have Alpitronic in Europe. So there's quite a lot of new stuff coming on the market. And Tesla, to be fair, was always kind of lacking the high-speed stuff. The issues between certain makes and models, and it wasn't working well on the Hyundai EGMP stuff, and it wasn't working well, and it wasn't really mating up well with other brands. And they kind of started figuring this out when they deployed the Magic Docks, which I think is still a brilliant system. That was really smart on their part. So yeah, maybe they started getting cold feet, saying, "Hey, these version 4 superchargers are taking a bit long to roll out. They're not working properly in testing, and we're still having to build V3 sites, and we have products such as the Cybertruck that really needs that 1,000-volt charging, and it's not there, and so on and so forth." And maybe it's not really a profit thing on their end. Maybe it doesn't actually make a lot of profit. It could have been a network benefit to them in order to sell cars, but they're not a car manufacturer anymore. And now they had this moat. They had a moat around their system. Around their network. They had their walled garden. I've mentioned this before. They've had their walled garden, and opening it up to other players. To other manufacturers. Well, maybe people are starting to climb at that wall, and they necessarily don't want that. Maybe they said, "Well, we're just going to become a regular a charging service provider." And the network in Europe has been open for quite a while to regular cars, so they had quite a good amount of data to pull off of their European network, where a lot of the network is open to non-Teslas. But again, really lacking the high-speed stuff even in Europe. And if you start looking at their model, they basically rent their sites, and there's no real benefit in terms of making profit from that site because they're renting it. They do own a few sites, I believe. They do own a few of their own sites, but for the most part, we've all been to Superchargers. They're at a branded gas station or convenience store or whatever, so on and so forth. Like if you take a company like Wawa, for example, well, yeah, I don't know what their agreement is, but I don't think Tesla is making any money off the snacks that you go inside and buy while you're charging your car. And recently, Tesla started selling their charging equipment. They just had a big deal to BP, I believe, that started selling their equipment. So maybe they realizing, hey, we could sell the equipment, but we necessarily don't have to install it anymore, and we could slow down our rollout, and we could focus on maintaining our sites and upgrading our current sites, which is what Elon actually wrote in a tweet. He said, we're going to focus on 100% uptime, and the maintenance is still going to be there. So they're really going to upgrading their sites, their current sites, and making sure they work properly, because a lot of those sites are starting to get old. There's a lot of version 2 sites that are still around. We've been to Tesla supercharging sites on this channel, if you follow it. We've been to sites in the US, here in Canada, a lot of sites in Europe, and some of them aren't looking too good anymore. Missing panels or loose panels, broken panels on the dispensers themselves, weird derating going on. Some of them, you start looking at the Tesla Supercharger, like, well, this is kind of a lackluster experience. Those Ionity chargers across the street look a bit better, and they're a lot faster, so maybe I'll just go there, even though it costs more. Yeah, then it's always those maintenance costs and the legacy costs that start adding up as you start building out your network of anything. It could be superchargers, it could be gas stations. For all you have to start paying those maintenance costs and legacy costs as you go on, and perhaps maybe they have a lot of contracts at those sites that are coming up for renewal, and the rents are increasing, or maybe Tesla wants a bigger piece of the pie. Who knows in that regards. But yeah, a lot of confusion in the industry. Everyone's transitioning to NACS or a J3400 now. If I were a manufacturer, as I mentioned, I'd be pretty upset if this happened. And a lot of planning like this is usually forecasted or planned out months or years in advance, saying, hey, we're going to start rolling back our systems. Just giving you a heads up now. It's not really pulled out from under the rug the night before. Like, I almost get the feeling that the CEO at Ford and GM were called at 2:30 in the morning saying, hey, we're putting out this release at 3 a.m. just to give you a heads up. This is what's happening. And these companies are deep. They're off the deep end now on NACS. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was board meetings happening at 5 in the morning saying, hey, do we go down the Tesla route and put all our eggs in one basket? Or do we continue with the CCS rollout that we know that works, and we're all getting together anyways with Iona and making our own charging network. So yeah, it's just really, really strange. Again, confusion in the community as well. We were all looking forward to, I was looking forward to getting an adapter for our car to be able to use Tesla Superchargers. That would have opened up whole new experiences for us. Like, oh, I can go there. There's a version 3 Tesla Supercharger and I have the adapter. Like, I was waiting for that to happen, for a BMW and Mini to come onto the network. We have a Fiat 500 on order that's going to be delivered with a CCS plug. Like, that would have been nice to have too with Stellantis. Who knows where that's going to go at this point. Maybe you'll see companies walking away. As I said, they're making their Iona network the North American version of Ionity. And maybe they'll just say, you know what, especially companies like Volkswagen that were never really on board with NACS, maybe they'll turn around and say, you know what, that's it. We're not doing the NACS ports. We're sticking with CCS, and that's going to be the end of it. I actually think the EV rollout will suffer. The EV market in general right now I will admit, it is not in a good spot. This will just make it a lot worse because there were a lot of people that were banking on having, on using the Tesla Supercharger network, and now if that's up in the air, who knows what's going to happen with that. Yeah, the rollout's going to suffer in general. And then you have to think about these employees that were laid off too. You have this massive brain drain that happened at Tesla. There's a lot of smart people, brilliant minds that work at that company. And when you have massive layoffs like this, well, everyone suffers. From the guy fixing the cars at the dealership to the person who's designing a supercharger, a version 5 supercharger, let's say, who knows what they had on the drawing board. Everyone suffers when there's a brain drain, and there's also the charging market's kind of small, and it's again charging market's not in a great space either. Charging market, ChargePoint's having problems. Tritium, I think, is in some sort of bankruptcy protection. It's a small market. I think these people will find jobs, hopefully. Very well connected. Everyone kind of knows everyone in these industries, but how many jobs are there? But I think they'll be okay. Hopefully, I really hope they're okay. I don't like to see good people suffering at the whim of a madman. Yes, I said that. Maybe we'll see more manufacturer type networks apart from Iona. Maybe we'll see more state or provincial networks that say, hey, well, we could buy charging equipment from Tesla and we could build our own network off of their charging equipment because we already know it works and it's quite reliable. As I said, Elon and Tesla said they're not completely abandoning the charging network, their supercharger network. They're just slowing down the pace. So either they predict a slowdown in EV sales, or there's just as I said before, maybe there's just no money in it anymore, and the money is actually in selling the equipment and tech infrastructure that goes along with it. And again, that goes back to what I said. Maybe the charging network is better off with convenience store brands. Like here we have Couche-Tard. They have another division, Circle K in the United States and Europe, and they're really, really going hardcore on charging. Like they're really installing it at their convenience store locations, their gas station locations. Just over here, they just installed a new site. So maybe it's better off in that space because they could figure out how to monetize it properly. And I think that's been a big issue in the charging space, is how to monetize the charging properly, because the equipment costs so much money. And it's not exactly high turnover rate like a gas pump where you could fuel 10 cars in, let's say, 20 minutes or probably even more than that. There's not a lot of turnover with EV charging. And I think that's the issue currently in the marketplace. Again, Tesla wants to focus on uptime, and I think they already know that they're the best option, so people will use them regardless. No one's going, even if you have a F-150 Lightning or a Rivian, chances are you'll probably still go to a Tesla Supercharger versus, let's say, Electrify America or something similar. Although EA is getting better. Actually, this is a pretty big deal for EA. Everyone thought that they would give up first, but apparently Tesla has given up before EA, so I don't know what that means. Again, Tesla selling equipment is great, but I think there's going to be a lot of trust issues now dealing with partnerships with Tesla. A lot of people got burned. I think a lot of people are going to get burned. A lot of manufacturers might be burned in this deal. And in the auto industry, well, as I said, it's a small industry. Everyone kind of knows everyone. You don't want to go around making a lot of enemies and having skeletons in your closet. At the end of the day, even though, let's say, a company like BMW and Mercedes, they might be competitors, there's still a lot of handshake deals, and there's still a lot of friendliness between both companies, even though they're competitors. Yeah, it's again, Tesla said the other day in their call that they're not a car company anymore. They're moving to tech and AI. And what concerns me with that is that, well, if they could basically pull the plug on supercharging, well, what's really stopping them from shutting down supercharging sites, or say, you know what, we're not in this anymore, and they just shut everything down? So again, it's a bit unpredictable. It's a bit of a powder keg waiting to go off there. I don't think they'll do that, but then again, nobody expected yesterday morning waking up saying that Tesla, who built the gold standard charging network that proved EVs could be viable, that proved EVs can work, proved that you can charge them, proved that you can drive them long distances, that you can charge them fast, pulls out their own supercharger network from underneath their own feet. Yeah, it was just strange. I still can't get over it. I wouldn't say it kept me up at night, but I had a headache yesterday thinking about it and how to go about this video. As I said, I think the trust is gone with manufacturers. The trust is a bit gone in me. I didn't trust Tesla 100%. I had about maybe 80% confidence rate in them. There was always that question of, if they control the entire charging network, well, you're basically at the mercy of them, as we saw. That turned out to be right. There's a lot of questions to be answered. I think the EV space is damaged. EV space is definitely damaged. The charging network, I want to say the charging network, I would say the charging space is definitely fragmented again. A few months ago, we were all talking about here that CCS was dead and that's it. It's not going to happen. We're finally going to have NACS everywhere. We're J3400. And now it's like, well, CCS is kind of like that wood-burning stove, so to say. It's still there, still reliable. And, who knows? That could be the standard to come. It still is a standard in Europe at CCS2. And yeah, I don't know where this leaves us. EV market's not doing too great in the general right now. A lot of uncertainty now with Tesla and the charging. And I don't think I could recommend Teslas to anyone anymore. This was a pretty weird decision in the business sense. I don't come from the corporate world. It's just a weird business decision. This would be equivalent, I would say, to if Apple put out a press release saying, hey, we're not using iOS anymore. We're switching to Windows, and we're switching to Android on your iPhone. That's as big as this. That's what I think would be a comparable announcement. It's just like, why? It's so strange. You had years of advancement on the industry. Maybe you stagnated a bit, and I think other manufacturers have caught up, especially with the high-speed stuff. But just ease of use, you show up with your Tesla, you throw it on, and it starts charging within seconds. Even using a Magic Dock starts charging within a few seconds. Even you've seen on this channel, we're in Europe every 2 or 3 months with some sort of EV, and we go to a Tesla Supercharger through the app. It works flawlessly. So yeah, just strange. A lot of future sites and questions, and yeah, I hope I explained my feelings and maybe some of the ideas going around. But yeah, just very strange. I just wanted to make this video and to get it off my chest. So that's it for now, and hopefully this mess sorts itself out, and we could all be charging at Tesla Superchargers in the near future. Thanks for watching.